episode 71, I think. 271. Fucking hell. Right, there we go. We should be live now. So, all's good. Right, so we'll just start off just doing whatever. What was your idea here?
Well, Mad Cat wanted to come and talk about his stuff that he has going on.
Yep, cool. Uh, stuff. So what do you want me to look at? Oh, nothing's in the chat bit. So if you want me to
No,
bring stuff up, I can post it in there.
yeah, he's got stuff. You could,
Yeah.
Mad Cat, if you wanted to link your Indiegogo campaign.
Okay. Yeah. I'll do that.
I'll do that right now.
Okay.
Ned, I could put it up on the stream.
Yeah, I had a nice bump today. I almost doubled the amount of money that I have collected. So
Cool. And what's it?
Really good.
Have you got the link?
well, yeah, I put it into the chat. Or did you mean into this chat in Discord?
Yeah, in Discord. Sorry.
Sorry, I put it on the actual show page on YouTube.
Oh, no, I'm not looking at YouTube. I mean, because if I look at it, then it'll confuse me.
Understandable.
And I've already got like a laptop open, 2 monitors, and yeah.
All right, I'm posting in the general room.
Okay. Yeah, I've got it now. Right, cool. Okay, let's where's the button to do that? Hang on. It's that one. Right, you should see it now. There's the Indiegogo campaign. So it's when did it go up? To 26 days left. Boys and Men issue handbook, exploring overlooked issues of boys and men. Cool. Don't think I can. Well, if I play the video, you guys wouldn't hear it, but everyone else would. Is there a video? Yeah, there is. Okay. Play that.
Yeah, it's a video you can play.
Yeah. I've got it playing right now. Everyone, I've usually got it set up so Discord can hear it as well, but it's not working.
It's all right. There's just some ominous music. That's really all it is.
Yeah. So, do you want to explain what this is all about when I've got the thing up?
Well, the whole point of this book is to show people all of the facts that are out there about boys and men's issues. Facts that people largely dismiss as either not existing or, okay, maybe there's something, but that doesn't really spell out a whole problem in society.
Yeah. Well, there definitely is. Like, you can see that it is, but it's. I'm not sure if it's like men. It's not men's fault, but the men don't talk about stuff like that really, that affect them that much compared to like women. Like, I find, unless you really get down to it, like most men would just go, I'll have to get on with it, if that makes sense.
Well, the problem we have in our society is that we want to protect women as much as possible. And that in of itself is not bad, but it's gone to women and children first on the Titanic to now we pretty much ignore that men even exist. We're so used to capitulating to women's needs that if you even mention that men suffer too, you're somehow a hateful bigot.
Yeah. Well, there was so there was a woman that started women's shelters in the UK, and she must be about 70 or something now, and she said that as soon as she started trying to get men's shelters, she got total pushback and then kicked out. So, and that was like 30 odd years ago. So there's been that thing there for a while, and no one, everyone finds it harder to get that type of money to put that stuff in than they do to get the money for the women. So there's definitely underlying issues, but it seems to just get brushed away and no one talks about it. So yeah.
Well, during that time of Aaron Pizzey with the first shelter and all that, it's kind of understandable that no one knew about it because access to information was just so hard to do. But nowadays, we live in an information age where the information is out there and it's still largely dismissed. One of the key things that I've done for this project is I've gone out to look for information to use for this book. And so far, I'm up to 4,000 sources.
Yeah. Oh, what was that other one? The Red Pill film with the woman that went and done all the went to talk to all the man's right groups and stuff. And she ended up saying at the end that she doesn't want to be a feminist anymore.
You're talking about Cassie J for the Red Pill film.
Yeah. That was upsetting. Just watching her cry and stuff. I was like, whoa. Like, that's just, I don't know. And the hassle she got to make that film as well. Like, they were trying to stop her from getting the money and doing all these things. It's really weird.
And she is definitely an inspiration for this book. Not the main inspiration, but definitely a good component of it because she demonstrated that there is a need for this information to come out. Because, yeah, she lost the funding from the feminist channels. I mean, she would have gotten it, but they required to change the film so it was a pro-feminist agenda. And she didn't want to do that. She just wanted to report what she found. She wasn't trying to say, you should change your position. But then, it's like Breitbart did their article on her, and a large number of people saw the injustice she faced and said, this film needs to come out. This needs to be out there. And with that kind of response, it kind of tells me that now is the time when we need to take these issues to the next level. And I'm hoping my book can be a step towards that.
Yeah, hopefully it does. So, are you... is anyone helping you with this, or is it just you on your own, or...
Well, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a picture of Paul Elam and Elizabeth Hobson. They're going to help me write the foreword for books 1 and 2. I'm still looking for other people for 3 and 4. But beyond that, I'm mostly doing this alone, except for anyone who contributes to this campaign.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot of the research, and I'm going to write it up. But, there are a lot of other people who have written articles, who have written books on this subject. I want to read all of that. So I don't really like saying I'm doing this on my own, because everything that I'm bringing into this, while I am doing the work, it's like a community has been building for this for the last 100 years.
So you're getting information from different sources and just putting them into the books, so it's easier to find the information then.
Exactly. I have two goals with this book series. First is those who know nothing about the men's movement or think that we're just a bunch of hateful trolls can find out firsthand this is what we're actually about. But the second thing is that I'm going to create a second book as a companion. There's the handbook that goes into detail about all this. The second book is the fact book that takes all of those specific facts and put it in there to be a quick reference guide. So if you're doing research on your own project or you're having a debate with some feminist online who says like men have all the privileges and they don't deserve any additional rights, you can quickly reference any number of facts.
Yeah, yeah. That's
How?
another problem that it happened in the UK as well when one of the MPs stood up and says we need a a day for to talk about men's issues, and one of the MPs, Jess Phillips, started laughing about it and saying, "No, you already have that every day in here is a men's thing," and it's like it's not though because they're not talking about men's issues. They're although there's a majority of men there, they're talking about other issues and not a man's issue. Um, so that doesn't make sense. But that's just her attitude was really bad, and of course she's a feminist. So it doesn't make sense to me that you could have a day for women and about women's issues and then not have one for men, because that's what equality is. It's just really stupid to have one and not the other. Um, yeah, it annoys me. It annoys me.
Well, I want to give a quick shout out to Catherine McLean, who's in the YouTube chat right now. And she, with Unvarnished Void, were both models in the 2020 calendar that I did. But she says that we need an international day to talk about men's issues. And what's funny about that, which kind of goes with a lot of what you're just saying now, is that the UN has the International Women's Day and International Day of the Girl.
Yeah.
But the UN does not have any official days for boys or men. Now, we do have International Men's Day, but that's not sanctioned by the UN. That's just something that we created as a response of men lacking a day. And same with International Boys Day, which I believe is March 15th. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but it's been going for a couple of years now.
See, I didn't
I
even
mean,
know that.
what kind of society that's male dominated where we don't have holidays to celebrate manhood?
Well, I didn't even know there was a day. So
I knew there was International Men's Day, but like I didn't hear about the boys one.
yeah, that's the one I mean. Yeah.
I have a question. How are you? Because you have like multiple books. How are you going about organizing all your facts and things?
Well, if you scroll up a little bit on the page there, I show where I'm dividing up the four facts. I'm kind of having a theme. Like in the first book, it's about our culture, and I kind of start from like childhood issues, then education issues. Go back down. It's just right above where the Paul Elam picture was.
Yep.
Goes into dating, marriage, and then divorce. So it's kind of like it builds from basically childhood up until death. Yeah, right there. And then you got the other books such as the legal system, where we talk about crime, we talk about rape, false accusations, things like that. Then in the third book, we talk about male disposability, where we talk about the occupational fields, workplace death, affirmative. Sorry, my mind went blank on that word. Affirmative action, yeah. All sorts of things related to the occupational field. And then we get into things like homelessness, mental health, things like that. And then the fourth book is focused kind of on a little of everything else, but mostly health, like cancer, the death rates, and even sex itself. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it
I have
sounds quite good.
because we were talking about like how men are treated. I have something that I saw the other day. This is a video, and I found that this video was like really interesting, and it has to do if we could just like maybe focus a little because it's like kind of about Black Lives Matter, but
Mm-hmm.
the core of the video you could see how it's about uh how a boy is being treated in his home, in my opinion, as almost a second class citizen. If like you want to play this.
Mm. Let's see, where is it? You've not put anything.
well, see, that's something
I
that's been
put
talked
it
about in
in
the.
shooting the shit
Yeah,
hashtag thing.
yeah,
Sorry.
yep, got it. Okay, so.
Well, this is something that's being talked about in the men's movement right now about all of this that's going on. And a lot of people's reaction is it's like we really need to like step into black culture and bring them into the men's movement more because one of the biggest issues, and I know people say I'm racist for saying this, but one of the biggest issues in the black community is the lack of fathers. I mean, you've had so many prominent black Americans say this. Hell, you even had Mr. Rogers say this back in the 80s that they lack fathers. And this is also one of the big issues in the men's movement is fatherhood or fatherlessness. Like so many things, you're more likely to have so many negative aspects of your life if you lack fathers.
Well, something I noticed is that, like, of course, you have a higher chance of being a criminal if you lack a father. And if it's a boy who lacks a father and then has a higher chance of being a criminal, and he actually does become a criminal, then when he has kids, it
It's a
creates
cycle.
like a cycle. Yeah, it creates a cycle because then
He's
he
also more likely to he's also more likely to abandon his own family because he doesn't know how to be a father because he doesn't have a model of a father.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a bad cycle. Then you, at some point, someone's got to try and not have that cycle.
I can't tell. Have you played the video?
No, I
Okay.
was waiting for you to. I'll play it now,
Yeah,
but
if
you guys won't hear
you
it.
go to Yeah, I know. I already know what's in the video. Mac Cat can play the video on his own
Yeah.
to hear it, and it's actually really sad, I find.
Okay, here we go. I'll press play now.
So on Saturday, I posted a blackout of my social media channels and just posted BLM. And a lot of folks responded, all lives matter. And I want to talk about that a little bit because I don't think that the people that are posting all lives matter should be canceled. I think they should be educated. We all agree all lives matter. But I had a really poignant experience tonight when I was putting my kids down to bed that lent the words for why Black Lives Matter. So usually Mila and I put our kids to bed, we read them a book, and our daughter always gets to go first. And tonight, as we were reading her book, my son says, wait, why don't I get to go first? And Mila said, because girls go first. And he said, yeah, but boys go first. And I looked at him, I said, no, girls go first. And I said, you know why girls go first? For you and me, girls go first. And the reason why is, for some boys, girls don't get a go at all. And so for you and me, girls go first. So when it comes to Black Lives Matter, I think what folks that are writing All Lives Matter need to understand is that for some people, Black lives don't matter at all. So for us, Black lives matter. So while you may have the best intentions in saying all lives matter, remember, for some people, Black lives don't matter at all.
Yeah, but the opposite is true. Okay. The opposite of that is true as well. Just finished.
What a cock!
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, to me, I find it really sad that in his own home, his son. This is my takeaway from it, if I may. In his own home, his son has no escape or safety. That he is treated as a second-class citizen, and will be punished for the actions of other people, or the perceived actions of other people, just because he shares a gender with them.
Yeah. And it was
That's
the same.
that's the message to me that he's giving his son.
Yeah, he's saying, look, man, you don't matter as much as someone else. It's like, oh, that's just messed up. Like, so, what I would do in his situation would, one night the girl would go first, and the next night the boy would go first to choose the books.
That's like stuff that me and my brothers did. We did stuff like that. There was like 3 of us, 2 brothers and me. I was the only girl, and my mom we exchanged turns between the 3 of us for things. Like, for example, we had Thanksgiving, and there's only 2 turkey legs, right?
Yep.
So we rotated who got the turkey legs,
Yep.
because all 3 of us, the turkey leg was the best part, and so we just rotated who got the turkey legs for Thanksgiving, whose turn it was.
I mean, that's what you used to do that as well.
And that's to me, that's teaching your kids equality. But then if they're saying only one kid gets something due to their gender, like he's giving his daughter an advantage due to her gender, so he's giving her a privilege just due to her gender, and he's giving his son a disadvantage due to his son's gender, like things that are outside of their control that they can't control.
Yeah.
And on top of it, again, like I said, his son is being punished for the perceived wrongs other people have done because of his gender.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not. It's just weird. It's really weird. Like that boy's not gonna grow up like proper. I don't think. Like he might, but he'll still have that thing that I'm not as good as my sister. Sort of.
He'll have an unhealthy. He might have an unhealthy attitude towards women, whether it be putting them up on a pedestal or having some sort of resentment.
Yeah.
It could go either way.
Sorry, I've had a phone call. I missed most of what he said, but I probably got the general gist of it. But my takeaway, I agree with you. He's basically a product of Hollywood feminism, that women have nothing, so we have to give them everything. And both ideas are very dangerous. 1, women don't have nothing, but 2, to overcompensate by giving them everything. This child is just basically going to believe that it's like all of these things we hear about, like Good Men's Project going into schools and teaching all boys they're rapists, or teaching all white boys that they're the cause of the problem. These children have done nothing wrong, and yet we're holding the sins of their fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers, who didn't even really do anything anyways, that they're the problem. And if you tell people long enough, especially men, if you tell them, hey, you're monsters, you're monsters, you're monsters, guess what? They're going to become monsters, because that's all they're told who they are.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's weird. It's just it annoys me that like I don't think people don't get it. Like it's like, but you just concentrate. I don't know what. Maybe I'm just thinking different than they people or something. I don't know how they get that mindset, like at all. Like, because you just need to look around and see that that's not the way to do it. It's just so weird to me. So maybe it's because I play too many computer games and the RPGs and stuff, and I always get like choices of the moral problems, and I don't know. It's really weird. That other people don't seem to get. To me, anyway, like all these people are just the same. Like, oh, it's like the riots here at the moment for something that happened like 1,000 miles away, and it was a dodgy, shitty cop. And now the UK is getting riots and stuff during a pandemic when everyone's meant to be in lockdown. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, what are you guys doing? You're going to mess up the whole lockdown thing in 2 or 3 days. The whole thing was pointless. The economy's collapsed because of it, and you guys have just went outside and done protests and riots. You're just going to cause it going back to zero again. There was no point in the lockdown because of them just going out, and it annoys me. So much annoys me.
Well, I just got a phone call now for a medical study that I did a few months ago, and I need to go in for my final checkup. And this is the first time they ever asked me about questions related to COVID-19. Sorry, I'm not allowed to say that. The drink virus.
Yeah.
But this is the first time. But I'm amazed, maybe not completely amazed, but just a little surprised that they didn't ask me, have you done any protests?
Yeah.
Because they asked me, have you been around anyone who hasn't? And I said, no, which is true, I haven't. But it's like, if you'd gone to the protest, then you most likely have been around those who do have it.
Oh, well, it's guaranteed that at least.
Well, I think like I saw a tweet like yesterday or something, and it said like a wrestler or somebody like that or whatever that attended a protest that tested positive for COVID. It's already spreading.
Yeah, in the next 2 or 3 weeks we'll find out, because it takes about that long. So
yeah, it takes a little bit to find out for like the little average person. So that's when I think you're going to see the spikes. I don't know if it'll start a complete second wave of it or if it'll just spike.
It'll definitely spike, and I think there'll be a second wave, and the lockdown's going to have to go on a lot longer than it should have.
It really reminds me of the bubonic plague. And I've done a lot of study on this because I wrote a book series that was in that time frame. And one of the reasons why the bubonic plague spread as it did was because of the 100 Years' War. And a soldier would come from a local town that had it but didn't have any symptoms right away and spread it to all the other soldiers. And then many of the soldiers decided to go AWOL and desert the military and go to local villages. And that's what caused the spreading to become more prevalent in France. Yes. And that's what we're seeing now is all these people who's like, oh, you need to stay home, you're being selfish, you need to wear a mask, blah, 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 are the same people who are out there rioting right now. Like suddenly they have amnesia that they were telling people to stay home and stay isolated, and are now actually probably doing a lot more harm than before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the thing is,
I wouldn't go to any crowded places. I'm not protesting nothing.
I mean, if it wasn't for the thing, I would be like, yeah, go for it, guys. But I'm just, it's like what?
Well, except for the rioting. The rioting, don't go for that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean just like a normal protest, right? Don't mean like go out and smash up
Yeah.
shops and stuff.
They're destroying black communities and black owned businesses and everything, and it's like, and more black people have died because of the riots.
Yeah,
So it's just like, okay.
and I can see why the governments have just let it happen, because like what do you do at that point, right? Do you start getting out the police and like really forcing people to not go out?
They've started that in some places. They've had a curfew, and they've started police forcing people to go home when the
Yeah,
curfew is there.
yeah, but you've got two things going on, right? So if you do that, then you're going to look like an authoritarian, which would
But
cause
yeah,
more uproar. So
but
you're
it's still
kind
they're
of
still
stuck.
different.
You're sort of like damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? Because if you don't do anything about it, then the
Yeah,
virus
they're
could
not gonna
kill a lot of
stop.
people, right?
Yeah, they're not gonna stop. They started out like day one. They started rioting.
And then so if you um
And if you don't do anything, then like President Trump said, he might do something
yeah,
and send in the military to
yeah,
stop the riots.
yeah.
Because you have a right to protest, but you do not have a right to riot.
Well, so it's not the riot that I'm talking about. It's like you're supposed to be under a lockdown, right? And
Oh, under there
if
have
they're
there have
going out,
been. I saw a funny tweet. There's been 1 second. Let me go over to my freaking Twitter.
like, because
Well, while you
before,
do that, they're basically
Oh yeah.
creating another Baltimore. Where
Yeah.
in Baltimore, this was like maybe a decade ago, where they're like, we don't want the police involved in our area. We want the police out. We will take care of our own. So the Baltimore police pretty much left Baltimore. And then crime spiked. And then they're like, well, why aren't the police here? You idiot, you told them to leave.
For disbanding their police here in America. Like some areas are going to try that, and I'm just like, okay,
yeah,
good luck. Like that's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them.
yeah. See, there's this thing: social outdoor gatherings of up to 12 people, protests of up to 100 people, right? That doesn't make sense, right? That's so silly.
Yeah, it's really silly.
And the other thing is that one of my family members is in a care home, um, and they've not been out or anything since about halfway through January, and we've not been going to see them either. And usually we would go every week, and you're just not allowed to go and see them anymore because they're in total lockdown. Because if they get it, it's going to be, well, it's probably going to kill them. So they've been like basically stuck in the house, and the lockdown was just going to start easing off, and now if these protests make another spike, that means they're going to be locked down again, just as they were starting to get out. It's not fucking fair. So yeah.
No, it's not really fair, but it's like I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, let me get this straight. If I'm in a protest where I'm in the middle of the sun, surrounded by lots of people who probably haven't bathed all day long, we're hot, we're sweaty, we have to use porta potties, or if not, then pee in the grass, where we're exposed to a lot more disease, that's fine, but I cannot be outside with 12 of my friends, because that's bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, I don't know what it would do. See, the government would have to enforce, like properly enforce it, and I think that would just make everything worse. So I don't actually have a solution for the whole problem. It's weird. It's
But
a
we let
weird
the stupid
situation.
people die.
I mean, well, you could go with the herd immunity
That would
system.
take that takes too long, and too many people would die, and it would overwhelm our healthcare system, which could cause more people to die.
Yeah, but
That was the problem, and we were just starting to get that under control.
yeah,
And it's like,
Well,
Something
I
do notice,
understand.
though, is that for whatever reason, the riots have since the riots started, my mask sales on my Etsy shop have gone like down. So for whatever reason, people are busy rioting
yeah.
and they don't have masks. They need masks.
No, I noticed the wee things that I've seen in the UK. I've noticed none of them were not a lot of them were wearing masks. Some of them were, but yeah, it's so weird that like a week prior to that, um, the cops were coming up to people just sitting on a bench on their own, and they got told to go home. Like just a week ago, they were getting arrested and stuff just for sitting on a bench, and now, um, the, everyone's in big groups. It's just so weird. So it's a weird. 2020's been a weird year. It's just
It has.
yeah.
What's sad about that is that a lot of these protesters, they want to get arrested. And they're trying to do everything they can to get arrested, because if they get arrested, oh, this proves that the cops are racist because they're arresting a black man. Oh, it's just peaceful protesting, but they're not denouncing all the damage and property being done.
I have seen some things happen to actual peaceful protesters where cops like had an overreaction. I think like one happened in like that one square or park place or something, and that was like over the news because it had a lot of coverage of it. And they launched tear gas and stuff into the peaceful protest there. So that happened. So it's like there are some instances where some not good things the police have done, but then it's like there's also a lot of instances where people are friggin' destroying things, killing people, because people have actually died from the riots and stuff as well.
Yeah,
And
wasn't there that black cop officer?
yeah, he was a retired like police chief or something like that. It was a retired one, and yeah, the looters like killed him. Yeah,
because he was trying to stop them looting a shop or something.
And he was a black man. He's one like a lot of people have died or gotten seriously injured because of the looters and everything. They were like trying to loot a shop and beat a woman with like a 2x4. She lived. But they were like looting and breaking her shop or whatever, and came out and yelled at them, and then they beat her with like a 2x4. Like that's basically the events that took place there.
Well, there was a interesting video by Candace Owens, and I think she was just kind of doing it on the fly. And I have a love-hate relationship with Candace Owens, but she was right in this respect. She said that the black community is the most unique community on the face of this planet, because it's the only community that looks for heroes in the lower portion of the population. Like, this man who died, yes, it's sad that he died, but he was also a criminal. He was a repeat offender. He did do bad things. And yet, the moment he's killed by a white police, he's a martyr. And so many of these instances, like, oh, this rapper who, has done all of these bad things, he deserves to be released from prison. But yet, whenever we have people like Candace Owens, for instance, or any other black person who has been successful, they're called Uncle Toms. They're called, they lose their black privilege because they're not towing the victimhood mentality.
I do want to add that apparently he he was turning his life around at the end there, which is why he moved to the place. So he'd gotten released from prison, moved, and was turning his life around. Like had a job or something. I read. So apparently he was doing that. So it is kind of sad in that respect. That, anyways, that's what I read.
But he did also revert
Yeah,
back,
but-
from what I understand. He did do drugs, and it was noble that he was trying to turn his life around, but for some reason he decided to fall back on old habits, which does happen to people who have been in prison. That's not a race thing. That's all people who go to prison try to turn their lives around. It's just too tempting to fall back.
Well, that
Yeah, it's just, I think it just makes it like, just kind of like
More-
a tragedy. Yeah, it just makes it a tragedy. And I do think that the cops involved should be punished accordingly, of course. I think because like people are like so overly emotional that they're wanting like a first degree murder, that has to have premeditation. Like the cop had to like be like, I'm gonna kill that guy today, and here's the series of events I'm gonna put in place to make sure I kill him today. You know what I mean?
yeah, that
Like
never.
it has to have,
That's because people don't understand the law.
that
that
never.
has to have like premeditation.
Yeah, you
you're
have
not
to
gonna
have a
get, like-
plan.
Yeah, so it's like sometimes some people, it's not about justice or whatever. It's just about like some sort of like weird
Punishment.
revenge thing. Yeah, and we can't have that. We have to have, correct punishment and justice for the, offense that occurred. And it's not going to be a first degree. It's going to be second or third degree.
I do think the cops were they were obviously too rough, but then
They were obviously in the wrong, and they did cause his death, I think, according to like an autopsy as well that I'd seen, that I'd read. So they did cause his death.
they,
So they should be punished for that, because whether or not they set out to do so, it still happened because of their actions.
yeah.
And
I
that
mean,
happens,
I don't know.
and that happens with police. There was a white man that it happened to in 2016 named Tony, and he was like telling him that he couldn't breathe, and it was like very reminiscent, except for with Tony. Tony called the cops. He's the one that called the cops, but he was like off his meds or something, is what I remember reading, and I might not know all the details because it's been a little bit, but from what I remember reading, he was like off his meds. He's the one who called the cops, and he was sitting there for 30 minutes, and they had, I'm sorry, that's just like an alarm or whatever. So let me turn that off. Okay. So anyways, and they had their cameras that showed this, and he was saying he couldn't breathe or whatever, and the cops basically killed him too, but he was a white man. And I see a lot of things happening where it's like people are trying to make police brutality into a black only race thing, and it's not. There are bad cops everywhere, and they don't necessarily target you based on your race. Like, can they? Yeah, there can be a racist white cop that targets a black person. There could be a racist black cop that targets a Mexican person, and et cetera, and et cetera. So it can be, but people automatically assume, and for whatever reason, they automatically assume anytime there's a white on black crime that it's race motivated.
I
So
don't.
I don't
Well,
necessarily.
I don't believe that it was race motivated. I think the cops were just a bit too
I haven't seen anything
rough.
that has shown that it was racially motivated. Personally,
This-
somebody has evidence out there that it is, they can give it to me, but like I personally had not seen anything. And there's been other crimes where people are like, okay, well, it's a white on black crime, so it's racially motivated, and it's like, no, it's not automatically a racist thing.
This is something that we see in some other parts of the world, such as Mexico and Brazil, that if a crime is done against a woman, it's automatically deemed a sexist crime, that she was targeted simply because she was a woman. So we do see this. No, it doesn't, but it's a way to just increase the sentencing of men in these countries. But, what you're saying there is that, cops are just, there are some ruthless cops out there. I remember a story I read a while ago where this man and his wife were in a car and she was like ready to give birth and he was trying to drive to the hospital as quickly as he can. He started speeding and then the cops started pursuing behind him. He decided to go ahead and call 911 and explain the situation to them, that his wife was in labor and that he was trying to drive to the hospital. There was a police behind him. And the operator said, okay, what you need to do is you need to pull over, tell this to the cops, and they will help you. Well, he did that. He pulled over, and the cops pretty much just ordered him out of the car at gunpoint. And he kept trying to explain the situation. They tackled him, put him to the ground, and kept him there for an hour before an ambulance arrived to take the wife to the hospital, but he was still arrested. And it was very unproportional. All they'd have to do is give him a ticket or give him some sort of police escort. He even tried to do the right thing, and the cops didn't care.
Yeah, you do have that happen. And you have, of course, you have good cops too. And they're being lumped in with the bad cops, and then people are asking for the police to be dismantled or defunded. I heard, or
that won't work out well for anyone. I'm just
No,
saying,
it
if you don't
won't. I
have
think
cops, who's going to be the person that's going to come to rescue you from other things?
well, the thing is that in the United States, I don't know how it is in your country, but in the United States, actually, the police do not have to protect you. They don't have to do that, but they keep law and order.
Well,
Okay,
no,
so
but
they will be the ones that would arrest the criminal. They would secure a crime scene. They can protect you if they choose to do so, but they're just not obligated to do so.
No, they're not they're not obligated to, but they're sort of part of the job description would be, if someone is in trouble, then
Most
they
of the
should
time,
come to
most
help you,
cops
right? 'Cause
do.
if you dial 911, right, you've obviously got an emergency, right? So if you're kidnapped or something and you get a phone, you dial 911. The
there's
cops
actually
are
been
meant to turn up to
been
help you,
instances.
right?
Yeah, but there's been incidences where the cops did not go. By the way, they did not turn up someplace, or they did not enter an area, because they don't have to.
Yeah.
That's the thing; they don't have to.
Oh yeah, if they I think it's if
And
they
people,
feel
yeah,
that their
people
life's in danger to
people have
go
tried to
and
sue
do that,
the police
then
here over it, and it gets thrown out because under the Constitution, the police have no obligation to protect you.
yeah,
So you need to,
because
yeah.
I don't know,
They're still needed though, because they enforce the law, they secure crime scenes, all that good stuff. Most of them will make the choice to protect
well, I mean, see, that's what
or offer assistance.
I think some of the cops are in it not for that. They're in it for the power that it gives them, and they're the bad ones. And
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get
definitely. Well,
you
you
get the
you
good
have
ones
people.
that do it to protect people, right? That'd be their thing. Oh, I want to solve crimes, and I want to help the victim get out of the situation or whatever, right? And then you've got the bad ones who are just oh, I just want a gun and I want the power to tell people that they have to do this and that and the next thing, like a power
And
trip.
That's
if you sorry, excuse me, just let me say this real quick. If you abolish the police or you defund them or whatever, you cripple them, the people that are going to be hurt the worst are the people that are poor, the poorest citizens.
Vulnerable,
The
yeah.
people are going to be hurt the most here because rich people can afford the security.
Yeah, I seen that tweet. Did you see that tweet? Some check mark person. I don't know if they were what they were. But one of the buildings in the riots was burning. He was like, "Yeah, that's it, burn it all down."
No, yeah.
Was one of
We
his
talked
tweets.
about that last week.
Did we?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we talked about that last week. His tweet, he was like, "Yeah, burn everything." And when it was over in the poor community, and I think he even went out to one of the riots in a different community.
Yeah.
And then when it was coming to his community, he was like, "Stop these animals" or something like that.
Yeah,
it was
stop
like,
these animal
wild.
scum. They're battering down my gated community. They're in my gated community. Stop these scum. They're wrecking everything. And it's just like, wow. Like,
but the thing is that rich people will be able. That I was getting at is that rich people will be able to afford protection.
Yeah.
And poor people will be left without it. Anyways, I
Well,
gotta make my daughter food so you two can continue the conversation.
Yeah, and I'll stop. Need to stop the YouTube video because we went over. Because I usually only do half an hour on YouTube, and then just do the rest on the radio show. Just because YouTube's really bad and like you can't say stuff there, so. If you go over to the radio. So it's arifradio.co.uk for the rest of the show. Goodbye, YouTube. Yeah, there we go.